This video isn't meant to be a thorough review of the game, its predecessors, or its successors. What I'm here to do is to tell a story about how one game literally changed my life and was there for me during my hardest times. I will preface that this video will be more personal than anything else I've posted. While your average Xbox player would write off Horizon 3 as just another Forza entry about cars doing cars, to me it was a dream I didn't want to wake up from, but one that I knew would inevitably end. It was my first Forza game ever. I've never owned an Xbox, but Horizon 3's availability on PC finally brought it into my scope of attainability. As a lifelong Gran Turismo player, I only knew closed courses and barred gates, pit lanes to your left and cones to my right. While Gran Turismo may have captured the rawness of real track racing, it didn't capture any of the exploration and romance of just regular driving. And the moment I booted up Forza Horizon 3, heard Kira's infectiously positive attitude as the music got louder and the cars in the convoy started to fall in one by one, my favorite scene from the opening still plays itself on rewind to this day, and it's that Ferrari FXXK. Up until that point, I only knew about the FXXK as a track-only car and every other game that I saw it in, but this was my first game I actually got to use it in. And seeing it used in an open-world scenario on public roads made me realize, oh shit, I am so not ready for what I just signed up for. Forza Horizon 3 was my very first open world racing game, and because of that, I would literally get lost for hours just leisurely driving, nowhere to go, no events to win, no gold medals to chase, just the sound of an engine and a desire to forget all responsibility, a brief respite, a temporary paradise, and also a coming of age realization that my taste in cars had peaked with this game. Up until then, every time a new generation of car was released, be it the newest Lamborghini, the newest Corvette, or newest Koenigsegg, I would always jump aboard the next. Yet when 2017 ended, I had a shocking realization that my taste in cars had finally locked in place. I had experienced my personal automotive golden age. From the moment I selected my starter car to the moment I ended up quitting that game, all those cars stuck with me more than anything that would be before or after. Now, what starter car did I pick? Do you really have to ask that? You already know it was the freaking Shelby GT350R. Even between loading screens at the end of each race, I would still be drawn in by the stunning art of the outback landscape. Whether it was the GTR racing through the rainforest, the Rally Ford storming down a mountain, or especially, I remember this one, the white C7. Horizon 3 was the sole reason I finally began to fall more in love with the C7 over the C6, and why I love the S550 Mustang, so much so that I actually bought both of those cars in real life because of that. To me, the Koenigsegg 1-to-1 is still my hero thanks to Horizon 3. I don't care if the future brings faster and faster hypercars, because none of them will be more symbolic. To be the first production car to ever have a 1-to-1 power to weight ratio, it symbolized having the strength to carry your own weight. I was so envious of this symbolism, as my whole life I didn't even have the strength to save myself, much less anyone else. I wanted to aspire to be 1-to-1, to become strong enough to no longer worry about myself, that way I can finally worry about someone else. To become so selfishly obsessed with bettering myself that it would eventually go full circle and the end result would actually be me caring for someone else. It would always surprise all of my friends that every time they asked who my favorite hero was, I would tell them Christian von Koenigsegg. As a child, you admire superheroes from comics and movies, but as you grow up, you begin to realize the most motivational heroes of all are the ones that are actually tangible, that actually exist in this world and have their feats acknowledged by reality. I've finally begun to understand the feelings of old boomers who would go on and on about cars from the 70s, or how 40-year-olds would talk about how the Ferrari F40 is the best thing to ever grace the earth. Even when I try to tell them, what about newer Ferraris? They're much faster, they're more advanced, and they're better looking. And they would just kind of dismiss my words, roll their eyes, and tell me that speed and technology aren't the only reason to love cars. Spirit and heart are just as important. They had reached the same moment I finally did in 2017, but they did so many decades prior. They too found their automotive golden age, and they just didn't care about what happened before or after. And trust me, I tried to give older and newer cars a chance. This was further proof that when I went back to play Forza Horizon 1 and 2, but again, let me state, this isn't a review, so don't even try to comment, but Bladed 1 and 2 had better scenery and physics. I care not for the game itself, but rather the cars within. After being introduced to 3 and even going forward to buy 4, I realized that my taste in cars truly did not care for what was past or what was to come after. With Horizon 3, I felt everything included was perfect as should be. I cared not for the Ventador SVJ or the Koenigsegg Jesko or the Corvette C8. I found my gaze blissfully fixated on the curves of the SV, the 1-to-1, and the C7 alike. I was locked in time with a beautiful realization that these cars could someday be mine. The vast landscape captured me the instant the game booted up, sweeping beaches that led into crazy jumps, forested roads that stormed through shallow rivers, and a sky that seemed as endless as the stars that filled it. The blaring soundtrack paired with the roar of many passing cars and Kiera's stunningly upbeat attitude. Trust me, she really is the absolute best announcer of every Horizon game. That's the one thing I will say, and I will argue to my grave. If you try to tell me 1, 2, or 4 had a better announcer, I disagree. Kiera is the best for me. And what was most exciting of all was that it was my first racing game to introduce me to a custom vinyl wrap system. And sure, many community patterns were pretty cool, but what absolutely captured me was the existence of Atasha. It made me realize and think to myself, wait a second, you could put anime girls on cars? You're telling me I can combine my love for anime and cars? It was an injection of pure bliss. Yet like any other drug, the injection wore off. Each time I turned off the game, I was hit again with the crushing fact that I had to face my pathetic reality, my falling grades, and not living up to the expectations of my tiger parents, and absolutely feeling helpless as I delved further into the insanity of schizophrenia. And no, I'm not some self-diagnosed Tumblr fuckboy or Twitter user who puts it in their bio. I've been officially diagnosed by doctors, I see a therapist, and I'm on medication. In my case, Abilify in specific. As Filthy Frank said,
"You go to the doctor, you get a note, and then you tell me you have a problem."
Truth is, I left many hints. I was too stubborn and prideful to ask for help directly, so I did in forms of hidden messages throughout my videos, some of which were super obvious, like look at the background of this video, just seriously, look at how many prescriptions there are. You think a normal sane human being has that many bottles collected? And that video had over 200,000 views, yet not a single person realized. Even down to the reason I talk to myself and preemptively argue with non-existent things that subscribers say in the form of a Patrick voice. That's all because I'm insane. I've only gotten more and more insane since YouTube has gone deeper and deeper, as now even negative comments are mixed into the flurry of the voices I hear. Every time I turn on a TV, and even if I don't, I see them right there. Words and voices constantly bringing me despair. Sometimes they stab at me from my peripheral or come right up to my field of view, yet each time I encounter it, my reaction is all the same. I avert my gaze and hope it all just begins to fade as I silently beg within, someone please help find me. So here I am now, after suffering in silence for so long, I finally got the courage to just tell you all that I have schizophrenia, and I'm done expecting people to jump through hoops, solve puzzles, and decipher messages about me. Don't even try to look through my past videos because I've already deleted basically all of those hidden messages. Now, the only reason I did those messages in the first place is because I'm too ashamed to tell people it directly, and who wouldn't be? Anyone with an actual mental disorder struggles to seek help, much less convince others they actually need it. We're scared to be a burden, or at least that's how I am. I'm way too prideful to tell others I'm suffering, too stubborn to admit I need help. The last thing I want to say is all of which makes me batshit insane. Lately, I feel like mental disorders are just cute little quirky fashion trends for social media users to add into their bios. By the time you talk about larger influencers, they will even use it to deflect any past crimes they commit. Oh, I didn't mean to do insert thing or say insert slur, but because I have insert disorder, I couldn't help it, guys. Please forgive me, like and subscribe. I wanted to make sure that if I ever told y'all here on my main channel about my condition, it'd come with no deflection. I wanted to tell people on my own terms what I have, not wait for drama, then cook it up as an excuse. So hear me finally say it once again, I am schizophrenic, I am insane. From the way I argued with myself mid-video, portray subscriber words that they don't even say, or modify my Corvette till it's filled with dread, it should all be pretty obvious to you by now. And if you were to go back and watch all of my older videos, they'll hit you different as you think. How could I not see it all along, that this person had a brain made all wrong? I've dealt with schizophrenia all my life. I was born with it. And when you're a baby, it doesn't really affect you much since you haven't learned to talk yet, so neither have the delusions. Yet the moment you understand language, those sick fuckers weaponize it against you. They put you down at every corner and whisper into your ear how pathetic you are and always will be. I only made it so far because up until now, one had always stood by my side as she told me, hear my voice above all others. It was because of her I didn't have to hide. Her name I won't share, not because I don't care, but because I ain't ready yet to ask you all to delve that deep. Bit by bit, I will introduce you. I can't inject you with the same drug or try to make you understand, but at the very least, I want you to listen to me. Please, I plead. As I grew older, my doctor eventually said it gets much worse from 21 onwards when your brain fully develops, so he recommended switching me to a new medication since I'd likely built up an immunity to my current one. He wasn't kidding though, it did get much worse when I finally became 21. I remember in 2016, trying to go to class, watching my professor's lips move as every other student silently took notes, yet I couldn't hear a damn word of the lecture. Wailing, screaming, and creepy conversations, they no longer filled my peripheral or existed as just simple white flashes. They now were right there, creeping into my main field of view. I felt hopeless. Yet each and every time I launched Forza Horizon 3, I felt that hopelessness lift, even if just briefly. At first, I couldn't figure out why, nor could my doctor, then eventually he presented a theory. He told me that most schizophrenics find peace with certain melodies, be it the soft strumming of a guitar, the pitter-patter of falling rain, or even the soothing sound of hair being brushed. Yet of all things my brain could have picked, it picked the absolute loud, brash, and uncouth rumbling of an engine as its peaceful melody. So whenever I tuned in to Horizon 3, everything in my peripheral and even the delusions that crawled out in front of me, I could see their lips move, I could see them trying to shout at me, gnawing and clawing and trying to grasp at me, yet as long as the sound of an engine was blaring, I couldn't hear a damn word that they were saying. And before some fucker tries to comment, yeah, I too experience a similar sensation with cars bladed, so maybe I must also be shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. If you truly think you have a mental illness, the last place I want to hear it from is in my goddamn comment section, so go get professional help. Seriously, get it much sooner than I did, please, oh please, that's the only advice I could give you. If you couldn't tell already, I'm an absolute psycho, a maniac. Empathy isn't my strong suit, because for all my life I've only known apathy. I'm not here to look for anyone to relate to me, I'm here to finally have someone listen to me. Don't even try to say, bladed, I've taken LSD, I've seen hallucinations, heard delusions too. The trip you experience from LSD ain't the same. You pop that pill to fill yourself with glee. The moment you stop, it all does too, but where's my off button? Unlike you, I ain't doing this cause I'm a glutton. I'm tripping forever pill or without day in and day out. I've got nowhere to run, nowhere to flee. So how can you even try to compare my suffering to LSD? Despite my many years spent in Gran Turismo and Need for Speed, the reason Forza Horizon brought about this revelation is because, do I really have to spell this one out for you? Like, have you heard the cars in Gran Turismo? You may as well just turn on a vacuum cleaner, because they don't sound like cars. As for Need for Speed, the blaring of police sirens drowned out any identifiable engine noise, yet Horizon 3 didn't have either of those issues. Every single car had just the right note, just the perfect tune, and just the right melody. It gave me peace and bliss as I was lost in its symphony. And even though my grades continued to fall, my attention at lectures continued to yield no results, my job as an RA continued to sink, I still made it to the semester's end. I still remember 2017 second semester finals week so vividly. I remember trudging through the summer heat as I showed up to each exam. It was the same song and dance. I walked in, sat down at my assigned seat, filled out my name, didn't answer a single question, walked up to the TA and turned it in. I did that for every single one. My cumulative GPA would drop from 2.7 down to 1.7. And I would be put on academic probation, yet none of that mattered, for I wouldn't be here to recoup any of the consequences. Thanks to my doctor, thanks to my boss, thanks to my peers, my coworkers, and my residents. God damn my residents, they were awesome. Owen Hall, 2016-17 Southeast 3. I'd like to forever thank each and every one of you, from Smitty to Alex, Chris to Zach, Drew to Simba, Nathan, Stephen, Jay, Tommy, or Dylan. I will always remember you all, except for the guy who sold crack at the end of the hall. Fuck you. But most importantly, thanks to Forza, did I finally learn how I could fight against what had plagued me for so long, even if it only granted just a fleeting moment of sanity. The clarity it brought gave me confidence to finally face my demons. I received an answer, a weapon so to speak, something to wield and fight, a beat to jam to, and a melody to follow. To anyone who says video games can't be a form of art clearly forgets that movies, television, and books once too struggled to be called art. It's all because of those stupid old farts. Generation after generation, they see something new and they dismissively brush it off. Back in my day, we didn't have television, we used to read books. Back in my day, we didn't read books. We used to get killed and murdered by saber-toothed tigers and did cave paintings. So if you really think about it, blah blah blah, who the fuck cares what they say? Because last time I checked, video games are probably the most artful form of art to date. In a movie, you watch the protagonist walk and talk, but in a video game, you become the protagonist. You struggle as the protagonist, and you learn as the protagonist. Video games don't just tell stories, they let you live the story. Each turn along the way, every single mistake that is made, they can change your perspective on life and make you a better human. While playing Forza may have not been a magic bullet to solve my life, I knew it was enough to carry it on. It renewed my love for cars, brought me out of my fleeting car enthusiast phase, and made me realize it is all or nothing. I had finally chosen to dismiss that fear and chase my own career. I spent the summer of 2017 YouTube banking on the fact that as long as others could hear the sound of my voice, even if it's just 10, 20, or a few hundred, then that means my entire existence wasn't for naught. For I spent every single day in and day out hearing nothing but others talk and hearing the voices of them, delusions, reality, whatever the fuck. Yet it brought me some peace and happiness to know that someone else can finally hear mine. But I had no idea that so many would like to hear mine, and just in 4 mere months I exploded up to 100,000. While I still wish there were so many things I did differently then, I am so glad that those mistakes still happened because I am who I am. Looking back at university, all those failed interviews, all those failed psychological screenings that corporations perform, it was obvious that I wasn't meant for college, much less the world that comes after it. I didn't have to face that world, not now at least. And again I say with great dismay that like any other drug, the dosage fades. The distant blaring of a V8 through a set of speakers combined with the limited frames on a screen did the magical effect of Forza finally wane. Yet I still smiled. I smiled being grateful for the clarity it brought, for the time it did work. I smiled knowing that I could finally move on to achieve that clarity in the world I belonged, here in reality. It's thanks to YouTube that I made enough money to sustain a life outside of the doomed path that originally lied ahead. Because of each and every subscriber I gained, every viewer that stayed, and everyone who supported me, that I was able to finally look at the grim reality ahead and boldly declare I challenge my fate. I bought a Mustang GT in real life. It wasn't much, but it sure rumbled the hell out of those bastards. If a video game was able to do that much to my delusions, you could only imagine how much better the real thing was. No matter how loud they shouted or how much they tried to chase, not a single one of those bastards could keep up with the sound of my V8. And even when I lost her and relapsed for 5 months into my own personal hell, I came back out once again. This time I found myself in the driver's seat of a car that I never thought I'd live long enough to ever actually get. I spent more hours, more miles, and really just more of anything driving that damn Corvette. Hell, even in Gran Turismo, or even in Need for Speed, it was always my brother's favorite car, yet in due time it became my favorite too. It's still so surreal having it in my garage and having less hate in my heart. So again I ask, no, I plead, please, keep watching me. Just a while longer, I promise I'll keep it fun, because as long as I'm here, I no longer need to run. I can finally rebuild my self-esteem, no longer turn tail and flee, and all of that is thanks to Forza Horizon 3.